Hello everyone, William here. Sorry if you were expecting an Object Show episode, but we're going to be trying something new today. I'm going to be reading some books from the original Thomas series, the Railway series. We're going to be starting with Thomas the Tank Engine. This is the second book in the series. Let's get started. Thomas and Gordon. Thomas was a tank engine who lived at a big station. He had 6 small wheels, a short stumpy funnel, a short stumpy boiler, and a short stumpy dome. He was a fussy little engine, always pulling coaches about. He pulled them to the station, ready for the big engines to take out on long journeys. And when trains came in and the people had gotten out, he would pull the empty coaches away so that the big engines can go and rest. He was a cheeky little engine too. He thought no engine worked as hard as he did. So he used to play tricks on them. He liked best of all some quietly beside a big engine dozing on a siding and make him jump. Peep, 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 peep. Wake up, lazy bones, he would whistle. Why don't you work hard like me? Then he would laugh brutally and run away to find more coaches. One day, Gordon was resting on a siding. He was very tired. The big express he always pulled had been late, and he had to run as fast as he could to make up for lost time. He was just going to sleep when Thomas came up in his cheeky way. Wake up, lazy bones, he whistled. Do some hard work for a change. You can't catch me. And he ran off laughing. Instead of going to sleep again, Gordon thought of how he could pay Thomas out. One morning, Thomas wouldn't wake up. His driver and fireman couldn't make him start. His fire went out and there was not enough steam. It was nearly time for the express. People were waiting, but the coaches weren't ready. At last Thomas started. Oh dear, he yawned. Come on, said the coaches, hurry up. Thomas gave them a rude bump and started for the station. Don't stop dawdling, he grumbled. Where have you been? Asked the coaches crossly. Thomas fussed into the station where Gordon was waiting. Poop, poop, poop. Hurry up, you, said Gordon crossly. Hurry yourself, said Thomas. Yes, said Gordon, I will. Only for the coaches to stop moving. Gordon came out of the siding and was coupled to the train. Get in quickly, please. So people got in quickly. The signal went down. The clock struck the hour. The guard waved his green flag, and Gordon was ready to start. Thomas usually pushed behind the big trains to help them start. But he was always uncoupled first, so when the train was running nicely, he could stop and go back. This time he was late, and Gordon started so quickly that they forgot to uncouple Thomas. Come on, puffed Gordon to the coaches. Pull harder, puffed Thomas to Gordon. The heavy train slowly began to move out of the station. The train went faster and faster. Too fast for Thomas. He wanted to stop, but he couldn't. Stop, he whistled. Hurry, left Gordon in front of the coaches. You can't get away, left the coaches. Poor Thomas was going faster than he ever had gone before. He was out of breath and his wheels hurt, but he had to go on. I shall never be the same again, he thought. My wheels will be quite worn out. At last, they stopped at a station. Everyone laughed to see Thomas puffing and panting behind. They uncoupled him, put him onto a turntable, and when he ran on a siding out of the way, Well, little Thomas, chuckled Gordon as he passed. Now you know what hard work means, don't you? Poor Thomas couldn't answer. He had no breath. He just puffed away to rest and had a long drink. He went home, slowly and carefully, never to cheeky to Gordon again. Thomas's train. Thomas often grumbled because he was not allowed to pull passenger trains. The other engines laughed. You're too impatient, they said. You'd be sure to leave something behind. Rubbish, said Thomas crossly. You just wait, I'll show you. One night, he and Henry were alone. Henry was ill. The men had worked hard, but he didn't get better. Henry usually pulled the first train in the morning, and Thomas has to get his coaches ready. If Henry is ill, he thought, perhaps I shall pull his train. Thomas ran to find the coaches. Come along, he fussed. There's plenty of time, grumbled the coaches. He took them to the platform and wanted to run round in front at once, but his driver wouldn't let him. Don't be impatient, Thomas, he said. So Thomas waited and waited. People got in. The guard and the station master walked up and down. The porters banged the doors, and still Henry didn't arrive. Thomas got more and more excited every minute. The fast director came out of his office to see what was the matter. The guard and the station master told him about Henry. Find another engine, he ordered. There's only Thomas, they said. You'll have to do it then. Thomas, be quick now. So Thomas ran round to the front and backed down on the coaches, ready to start. Don't be impatient, said his driver. Wait till everything is ready. But Thomas was too excited to listen to a word he said. What happened then, no one knows. Perhaps they forgot to couple Thomas to the train. Perhaps Thomas was too impatient to wait till they were ready. Or perhaps his driver pulled the lever by mistake. Anyhow, Thomas started. People shouted and waved at him, but he didn't stop. They were waving because Thomas was such a splendid engine, he thought importantly. Henry says it's hard to pull trains. I think it's easy. He hurry, he puffed, pretending to be like Gordon. As he passed the first signal box, he saw the men leaning out of the window and waving and shouting. They were pleased to see me. They'd never seen me pulling a train before. It's nice of them to wave, he whistled. Peep, peep, thank you, and hurried on. But then he came to a signal of danger. Bother, he thought, I must stop. I was going so nicely too. What I knew the signal door. He blew an angry whistle. One of the station signalmen came up. Hello, Thomas, he said. What are you doing here? I'm pulling a train, said Thomas proudly. Can't you see? Where are your coaches, then? Thomas looked back. Why, bless me, he said, if we haven't left them behind. Yes, said the signalman. You better go back quickly and fetch them. Poor Thomas was so sad he nearly cried. Cheer up, said the driver. Let's go back and try again. At the station, all the passengers were talking at once. They were telling the fat director, station master, and the guard what a bad railway it was. But when Thomas came back, and they saw how sad he was, they couldn't be cross. So they coupled him to the train, and this time he really pulled it. But for a long time afterward, the other end had left Thomas and said, Look, there's Thomas, who wanted to pull a train but forgot the coaches. Thomas and the trucks. Thomas used to grumble in the shed at night. I'm tired of pushing coaches and want to see the world. The others didn't take much notice, for Thomas was a little engine with a long tongue. But one night, Edward came to the shed. He was a kind little engine and felt sorry for Thomas. I got some trucks to take home tomorrow. He told them, if you take them instead, I'll put coaches in the yard. Thank you, said Thomas. That will be nice. So they asked the driver the next morning, and when they said yes, Thomas ran happily to find the trucks. The trucks are silly and noisy. They talk a lot and don't attend to what they are doing. They don't listen to their engine. And when he stops, they bump into each other screaming. Oh, whatever is happening. And I'm sorry to say, they play tricks on an engine who is not used to them. Edward knew all about trucks. He warned Thomas to be careful, but Thomas was too excited to listen. The shunter fastened the coupling, and when the signal dropped, Thomas was ready. The guard blew his whistle, Thomas answered, and started off. But the trucks weren't ready. They screamed as the coupling tightened. Wait, Thomas, wait. Thomas wouldn't wait. Come on, he puffed. The trucks grumbled slowly out of the siding to the main onto the main line. Thomas was happy. Come along, he puffed. All right, don't fuss, grumbled the trucks. They clattered through stations and rumbled over bridges. Thomas yelled peep, peep, and they rushed to the tunnel in which Henry had been locked in. They got to the top of the hill where Gordon had gotten stuck. Steady, warned the driver, and he shut off steam and began to put on the brakes. We're stopping, called Thomas. No, answered the trucks, and bumped into each other. Go on. and before a driver could stop them, they had pushed Thomas down the hill and were rattling and laughing behind him. Poor Thomas tried to stop, but he couldn't. He was glad when he got to the bottom. Then he saw the place where they had to stop. "Oh dear, what shall I do?" They rattled through the station, and luckily the line was clear as they swerved into the goods yard. Thomas held his brakes fast as they skidded along the rails. "I must stop," he shut his eyes tight. And when he opened them, he saw he had stopped just in front of the buffers, and there watching was the fat director. "What are you doing here, Thomas?" he asked sternly. "I brought Edward's trucks," Thomas answered. "Why did you come in so fast?" "I didn't mean to, I was pushed," said Thomas sadly. "Haven't you ever pulled trucks before?" "No." "Then you have a lot to learn about trucks, little Thomas. There's silly things that must be kept in their place. After pushing them about here for a few weeks, you know almost as much about them as Edward. Then you'll be a really useful engine." Thomas and the breakdown train. Every day, the fat director came to the station to catch his train, and he always said hello to Thomas. There were lots of trucks in the yard, different ones came in every day. Thomas had to push and pull them into the right places. He worked hard, he knew now, but he wasn't as clever as he thought. Besides, the fat director had been kind to him, and he wanted to learn all about trucks to be a really useful engine. But on a siding by themselves, Thomas was told he couldn't touch. There was a small coach, some flat trucks, and two things called cranes. As to breakdown train, he said, when there's an accident, workmen get into the coach, and the engine takes them quickly to help the hurt people and clear and mend the line. The cranes are built in things like engines, coaches, and trucks. One day, Thomas was in the yard when we heard an engine whistling, "Help! Help!" and the goods came and rushing much too fast. The engine, a new one called James, was frightened. His brake box were on fire, and smoke and sparks streamed out on each side. They're pushing me, he panted. On, laughed the trucks. And still whistling, poor James disappeared under a bridge. "I'd like to teach those trucks a lesson," said Thomas. Presently a bell rang in the signal box, and the men came running. "James is off the line. The breakdown train, quickly," he shouted. But Thomas was coupled on. The workmen jumped into the coach, and off they went. Thomas worked his hardest. Hurry, he puffed. And this time he wasn't pretending to be like Gordon, he really meant it. Bother those trucks and their tricks. I just hope James isn't hurt. They found James and the trucks at a bend in the line. The brake fan and the last few trucks were on the rails. The front ones were piled in a heap, and James was in a field with a cow looking at him. And his driver and fireman were feeling him all over to see if he was hurt. "Never mind, James," they said. "It wasn't your fault. It was those wooden brakes they gave you. We always said they were no good." Thomas pushed the breakdown train alongside, and he pulled the unhurt trucks out of the way. "Oh dear," they groaned. "Serves you right," puffed Thomas. When the men put the other trucks on the line, he pulled them away too. He was hard at work, puffing backwards and forwards all afternoon. "So I'll teach you a lesson," he told the trucks, and they answered, "Yes, it will." They left the broken trucks and mended the line. Then with two cranes, they put James back on the rails. He tried to move, but couldn't, so Thomas helped him back to the shed. The fat director was waiting anxiously for them. "Well, Thomas," he said kindly, "I've heard all about it, and I'm pleased with you. You are a really useful engine. James will have some proper brakes and our new coat of paint, and you shall have a branch line all to yourself." Now Thomas is happy. He has a branch line all to himself, and walks proudly backwards and forwards with two coaches all day. He is never lonely, because there is always someone to talk to at the junction. Edward Henry stops quite often and tell him the news. Gordon would always hurry and does not stop, but he never forgets to say hello to Thomas. Thomas always says hello back. The end.